Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back here for another recap and review of the hit series Shogun, which is available on Hulu and FX right now as we are playing catch up and we're jumping into episode 7, A Stick of Time. So yeah, we're behind. Don't worry about that. Let's just talk about tonight's or today's or episode 7, however else you got to this video one way or another. Let's talk about episode 7, A Stick of Time. Nadia, I'm coming out the gate with this was an insane episode. We have to talk about the big moments of this episode, and I want to go straight to the conclusion of this episode where Nakakoto wanted to grow up. He wanted to be a man, and I'm not going to fault him for that because I think he's so prideful of his father. This is a little boy who has heard about his father's legacy. Like his father did something that kind of was even though it wasn't true, but it was jaw-dropping that he was second in command, and I think they say he was at the age of 12, and he removed a general's head. First of all, he won a war and removed the general's head with one swipe. I mean, I'm sorry. If that doesn't make you want to get up in the morning and say, I need to do something with my life. But at the same time, where we heard stories about people not standing, we heard stories about people standing up for him. You go back to Fuji's husband, and then you hear about that story, and then you look around at all these loyal folks that he's been looking up to all this time, and even to the point of, which is kind of, I think the last, what they call it, the what that broke the camel's back? What is it, like the hay or the whatever, the straw that broke the camel's back? Like basically the last thing that did it. When Blackthorn got up, and although they couldn't understand him in English, but he basically got up and called them out, said, y'all supposed to be his homie, and y'all ain't doing nothing. I think that was the final moment, and he decided to work a plan when he was going to get his uncle at potentially his most vulnerable point, run up and kill him, only to slip on his gown and fall and bust his head. And I think it's very, 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 very safe to say that he died, which is kind of heartbreaking because for 7 episodes, it was all about the protection of his son. And it all was about his son kind of growing under his tutelage and just kind of watching how things exist around him, only for him to die in a freak accidental accident. You can't go far saying karma or anything. It's a freak accident. What did you think about the finale of this episode and what strongly appears to be Nakakoto's death?
Oh man, this episode was heavy. It was incredible. I thought this was one of the best episodes. The ending was super shocking. Literally, I was thinking like, because he kind of took things into his own hands. I think it was episode 2 or where he cut off the general's head who was supposed to report back to Ishido.
Yes.
Yep. So this, like him taking like a stand again, I was like, oh, he's a G. I was like, he's definitely like trying to make a name for himself. And then to go out like that, I was like, no, like it hurt. I was tearing up. I was like, this did not just happen. I just wanted him to like make his dad proud. I think it's one of those instances where someone tries like too hard to please their parents. And it's also one of those moments where if his dad maybe just, instead of being so generally with his son, if he kind of maybe showed him, I don't know, just showed him a little bit of something, like maybe take him under your wing, but also give him advice, like fatherly advice, then maybe he wouldn't be so like gung-ho, like I have to prove myself to my father. But because his father was so standoffish, I think that was also like, I need to prove myself and make a name for myself. And then also the backhanded comment that his uncle made, where he said it wasn't a beautiful death, something like that. It was like, like damn it, like even his uncle too was like getting under his skin, and he was just trying to like prove himself and protect his dad's name. So that was just shocking. Oh man, that was shocking.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly see it a little bit of both ways, because I think if his father had him more involved, he would have still felt the pressure to kind of live up to his father's legacy. Mm-hmm. I felt like if his father would have made him second in command, that could have been problematic. It's just the son who just was really just trying to prove a name for himself, and I think there was a lot of societal pressures around him. And I also think too, a lot of people may be able to resonate with this, but a lot of folks that we know that grew up with very overprotecting parents The moment they get from under them, typically college, they end up becoming their true selves. And a lot of things happen, you know, sometimes mild mistakes, sometimes success. But nonetheless, you know, it's a very, very almost it's almost so standard nowadays when the parents are trying to be as protective as possible and shelter them from shield them from the world. The kids, the moment they get an opportunity, they go out there and they do something. And as you mentioned, yeah, after the whole thing with Izu and killing him, and he was going to have to go back to Osaka to report for that too. I think there was just a lot happening, and his uncle coming in, and his uncle just really shifting everything. I guess he just took matters in his hand, and I keep saying appears to be his death because you know how it could be. You know how these shows could be. Listen, let's not forget that Bontoro was like 1B100, and he's still here. So you just never know. But man, if it is, man, I really, really, really was rooting for Nakakoto. I wanted to see so much more for this character. I wanted to see more of the relationship between him and Omi. And even to the point of him and Fuji having that moment. I didn't think it was foreshadowing, but god damn if it's eerie looking back at it now when he was just thinking about the loyal people who stood up for his father, and he just happens to be just another one of those folks. So ooh, what an episode. We're gonna stick to this plan here and kind of talk about the biggest moments of the episode. I'm going to go for the next one here too. I think we both agreed with the ending of this episode was a big moment. But let's go to Harumatsu, who basically has seen Toranaga his entire life. And we go back to the very beginning of the episode where we see Toranaga, which they say was dated 46 years ago, and him winning the war where he had a war against a general Mizuzuki, and Mizuzuki conceded defeat, and all he asked was for his legacy was to say that he fought in honor and that he was seconded by a boy, which at that moment he got the I think they called him the little boy samurai, but
the boy warlord
yeah, the boy warlord. Thank you. This was a moment that we seen reflected back to many times in this episode. We kept getting flashbacks to it, and that's where the question is going to be. But just to sum that up, as it appears in the beginning, Toranaga takes the sword and beheads him, in true samurai fashion, and even in proper customs or legacy in this is that I hope we meet again in the afterlife, but maybe this time I'm the one holding the sword. To me, I felt like Toranaga was reflecting back on his life and wondering if that very moment was what sealed his fate for what could potentially be his fate in Osaka. And I think he kept kind of seeing his duality that he may see almost like a reincarnation of this person will be the one to behead him. But I think my thoughts changed and evolved so much in this episode because at one point this kept look like he was flashing back in almost trauma or just something that was just like kind of like triggering to his past. But also we find out that story and how it's portrayed wasn't indeed accurate, and there may be a little bit more to it. So taking that scene and taking the different moments throughout the episode, what did you make of Toranaga in that flashback moment when he was such a young boy that created this overly big legacy and almost like of legend storytelling for his first war, such a win at such a young age?
I kind of like how flashback now, him and I forgot his name, the older man.
Yeah, Hiromatsu.
Yes. It was, I don't even know how to say it, but they made it funny. Like they made a funny, like I don't know how you can make beheading funny, but like the way they reflected back on it, it was pretty funny because Toranaga's like, you weren't looking out for me. And I thought he was talking about his brother talking about the story with the horse and the shit. Like I thought he was feeling insulted, but no, like Toranaga made a joke. He was like, no, like it was like 12 like swipes before the head came off. So I thought that was kind of funny, like a little like comedic moment between them. Like I guess one moment of like something not joyful, but you get what I'm saying, like a semblance of some kind of like connection that wasn't just about war and dying. But But yeah, I guess it just shows kind of maybe more of a different side of Toranaga, like a little more of not humbleness, but like that he's
Flaw.
not, that he's flawed too. He's human, that he's not just this legend that everyone like looks up to. Like he admits his like flaws and that he was a child at the time, and like maybe that was traumatic for him, and like he never really got a moment to be a kid, I guess. Like
Yeah.
12 years old being a general and like a second in command is wild.
Yeah, I think you got to give a little bit credit to Hiromatsu too, because he was the one that says like, I trust this guy. And I think it's kind of a I don't know the word to use here, man, but it's I guess, lack of better words, it's like a beautiful thing that he trusted him at such a young age to be his second, and now he's Toranaga's second, and they're still together throughout everything that's happened, even to the point now where it looks like this may be Toranaga's demise, and they even share a moment to have a little joke. And I think it's just shows how close they are, because Toranaga has not had much to laugh about this entire episode. He's been on edge, and he let Lady Mariko have it. And we're definitely going to talk about that in a second. Let's go to another moment, and I think this is a moment, I don't know when I thought we were going to see it, but I knew it was going to get to a point where it was going to boil to a tipping point, and there was going to be a choice or a decision to be made. Bontoro has been just waiting and lurking to get his moment with Blackthorn. When we see him and Yabushigi sort of just having a moment by the water as Blackthorn is kind of looking out at the boat, trying to figure out a way to escape, because he said, I'm not going to be sitting around and not figure out something. So he's obviously thinking, just to come up to Yabushigi, who I have to mention, Yabushigi this entire time, we always talk about he was like the trickster. You never knew what side he was on, but he got it handed right on his plate. His head of his little guy that went out to try to make a peace on the side. And they was like, so about that, Ashido said, nah. So this is the first time, I think, this entire series that Yabushigi realizes like, oh shit, I really am tied to Toranaga, and there is no other options for me, which I love, because now I would love to take away that this person is going to be a rat behind Toranaga, but now he's almost desperate at this point.
He's like, I better teach him how to fight.
A little bit of frustration, a little bit of like confusion. What do I do here? And they get a little scuffle together, only for him to teach Blackthorn how to hold the sword, and a little bit of humiliation. But Bontoro's right there, and Bontoro puts the blade to his neck, and my man is shaking. I mean, it's almost like a dog when you have a treat in your hand. This man is about to lose it, because this entire episode we peeped him observing the relationship between Lady Mariko and Bontoro and Blackthorn, and he realizes like, yeah, he's definitely there's a measure of attraction there, and I don't like it. Just for him to report back to Toranaga and says, when all this is said and done, I need to be the one to take the barbarian's head. And he says, okay, cool, but why? Oh, because I think he's interested in my wife. Cool. So is your wife interested in him? No. Then the deal's off. One can't be the other. I mean, y'all need to listen to Sensei Toranaga, everybody, because there's not attraction one way in the situation that you're saying they're catching eyes for each other and she's acting different and whatnot. They're both are in the wrong here. If you're going to come to the judge with a case, you got to look at it from all angles here. And he says, like, you can't take one without the other. So are you saying that your wife has eyes for him? He says, no. Then he says, well, then no deal. We'll talk about the rest of that later. But for you, Bontoro, who has definitely had it at the point now that he sees his wife falling and almost unshelling for this guy, that's making him uncomfortable, that's making him jealous, that's making him ready to kill. What is your thoughts about Bontoro and observing this? And what is your ultimate thoughts about him basically saving Lady Mariko? Because he easily could have just said both of them.
There's so many like connecting thread lines in this episode. At the, I believe it's called the Willow, like the brothel place. I think it was Kiko.
Tea shop.
Yeah, the tea shop that I think Kiko hinted to what was his name? The one who's dating the consort.
Who is? Oh, you talking about Omi?
Omi, yes.
Yeah.
So she hints to Omi that don't worry about Blackthorn. His eyes were elsewhere. So he's already like on edge because of his situation, and then he kind of reflects that onto Montoro, like because he wants to keep the Anjin away from his girl. So he's kind of like, you worry about that. He has eyes for your woman. So I think that he just heated, and now he's just heated, and it's just all kind of like blowing up. And I think Montoro's just at a point where he feels like battle-wise, he's not really doing much. I guess he was already kind of annoying Toranaga because like Toranaga had already had to put him in his place a few episodes ago, and then now like obviously after everything with his wife, it's like even worse now. So he's just kind of taking all that frustration out, and like everyone just wants to blame John for everything as if these problems didn't exist beforehand. But they're like, once the Anshin got here, everyone's kind of like throwing that on him. But obviously, yes, there is some kind of connection with him and Mariko. But I think Montoro's just fed up and like he doesn't know how to handle it. And I think him going to Toranaga was kind of like an admittance that he's done something wrong. But I think he's just trying to cover his own ass. Like he's like, let me save myself before I do something stupid and get permission to do something stupid.
Yeah, because let's not forget, when he disrespected the house, he basically went there and asked for death because of the disrespect to Toranaga. Now he's like, all right, so one, we know that Blackthorn is completely off hands and he must be protected by all means because of his cannon tactics. Even Blackthorn even questions all this that I've taught and everything I've been involved with. What does it mean? You know, so I don't know if Montoro's picking up on that too. Like, hey, this guy isn't really as essential as he makes it. He just had to serve the purpose and he's done so. But nonetheless, you're right, he absolutely is trying to protect himself and saying, let me get ahead of this. Or it's almost like an addict at this rate. It's like, let me check back into rehab really quick before I relapse, because that's almost the mindset of him. Like, I want to kill this guy, so maybe before I just do it on my own, let me ask for permission and kind of see if I can at least have some peace in that notion. But it is interesting. I'm gonna send your comments right to the next part where we do get this moment of everybody together having drinks, and this is when we get Toranaga's brother I always get these names so Nabutasu, I think. I don't know. Nobutusu. We'll go with that for right now. I'll get it together. But anyway, everybody's all together. I'll just call him half brother until I get the pronunciation right. But the half brother and everybody's there. And this is like where
Saiki.
Yeah, yes, Saiki. Whole name, nonetheless. We'll go Saiki since that's the shorter, easier part. But these dinner scenes, man, are never good for any show. Not just this show, for any show. Anytime there's like a dinner or collective or anybody have a drink, the messiness comes out.
The tension.
So not only did we get the story about the horse that you mentioned, but we also got moments where like everybody was kind of getting a shot thrown at them about something. First of all, or something that just offended them. First of all, him, and I think this was the scene where it happened. Let me make sure real quick. But we do know that the half brother Saiki is going to be going to the brothel to get Kiko for a week. And Omi, that's his girl. He likes her. That's why he tried to go see her. And they said, by the way, you're not, because this thing is locked up for a week. So we have that moment of him understanding that like the person he likes, and that's what's happened there. And then you get in the story about when the half brother basically talks about like the truth about either legend or truth, and that's where something else comes about. And we also hear about the other option at hand. So there's a lot of different perspectives going on here, but it's making everybody truly uncomfortable, even to the point that like even when you go back to just how much Nakakoto seems to just loving his uncle's presence there. He's so mesmerized by the stories and stuff, but understanding that what is to come and what is being said is truly making everybody kind of looking over the shoulders, because what does this mean? When we get to the point now where we find out that there is a trap being placed here, because he says I was given another choice. It looks like Ishido got ahead of the curve and nominated him and made him now the 7th member of the council, which fills in Toranaga's spot, which makes that liability on being able to have him impeached no longer a liability. And he also has to bring in Nagakoto for Izu's death, Lord Izu's death. With all of that happening, where the Hiromatsu reading everything, and now having to give Toranaga now time to answer if he's going to surrender or not. He's not allowed to leave. A lot of different things are just happening. This is a very, very complex scene. What was your thoughts as things start to reveal? You had folks' feelings being hurt. You had truth being told. We see a trap being set. We're seeing these folks in a situation we have never seen them at, where their backs against the wall and it ain't looking good. What did you think about this very, very crazy dinner and drink scene?
So I kind of went in when they first announced that he hasn't seen his brother in years. I already kind of had a feeling that he would betray him, but I didn't think it would happen in this way. I didn't think he had already betrayed him at this moment. I thought it was something maybe to come in the future. I didn't expect at all for him to be the new appointed regent. That I was very surprised by. I did expect him to the whole tension at the dinner, he says that he sent him that Toranaga as a kid was sent away as a hostage to instill an alliance. So first he's gonna go in with the compliments, then he's gonna embarrass him, and I already saw that coming. And then you kind of saw the whole tension in the room shift. Everyone kind of got quiet. No one really knew what to say or expect. And then boom, that's when he hit him with the whole story's legend of the truth. And he's like, oh, well, you could have made me the new Lord of Izu, but yeah, I already received another offer. And then I was like, oh shit, here it comes. And then it was just boom, the betrayal, everything was just happening at once. I think, yeah, kind of what you were mentioning with Toranaga's son, it was kind of sad because I guess he kind of looked at him as a hero, or this is gonna be something good, and he's excited. And it just, I don't know, it was just a whole, you felt the sadness because he's young and he's inexperienced. He has so many questions. He's curious about everything. He even mentioned the thing about woman, your first kill being more exciting. And he's just so young and innocent. So it was just really sad to see how things progressed.
And it's a lot of duality in that, because his father had his first war and killed before he had his first, as they say, pillow with a woman. So understanding that, he's thinking the legacy he's kind of stepping into. And it is sad. He's very much curious about the stories of their family and the stories of his father, the legacy, the legend of his father. He wants to hear all of that. And as I was mentioning, there's a lot of other stuff kind of happening, because listen, Omi telling Bontoro, says, oh, does it make you happy seeing your wife fulfilling her duties there, knowing that he is not happy about that? Just for somebody to say, and it wasn't somebody, it was Hiromatsu, who says, so how did you like your gift? And when he said that, Omi was looking oh man, he's just gonna throw out there my girl. So there's a lot of different emotions happening right here in this moment that I could have never thought it was going to end the way it did in this episode. Where do we go next? What's another big moment? I've laid a few down. What about you?
We should get to, because the conversation where is it not Kiku? Who's the head consort?
Yeah, Kiku.
It is Kiku. Yeah, so the head consort, she's been trying to have a meeting with Toranaga for a while now. And he even throws out the metaphor, sticks of time, basically knowing that his days are numbered and he's dying. And she's kind of reflecting on aging as a consort and I guess not being as desirable or whatever the case may be, because she is the biggest and most famous,
lucrative. But
she's aging.
Her prices already went up.
So I guess she's trying to find a way to keep her business afloat.
Longevity.
And she mentioned a guild of courtesans. I guess she was trying to figure out some future plans.
She wants to evolve this business,
Yeah.
and not it just being a brothel where there's almost like no respect or dignity behind it, but a tea shop that the biggest fantasies comes to life and is protected. She wants to grow this, and she feels with everything that Toranaga has done in his future that he's trying to create, she wants to be a part of that roadmap. And I think with not only with that, she also has a loyalty beyond such a business agreement. I think she was the only person, maybe except for Blackthorn, who never wavered from her idea that we're not in trouble. I believe in you. You'll figure this out. He's talking about my end maybe near, and she's like, says who? Like, you got this. And I know that she's still politicking for her business, but I also think she was also there to be a bit of positivity when everybody else is kind of just feeling like we're screwed. So yeah, I think it was an important conversation because now she's thinking about the longevity of her business and herself, but she's also somebody who's like, I believe in you for everything that you've done and what we could do in New Edo. I know that you will get through this. I got to say one quick thing, and I'll get right back to you. At that moment is when we got back to that final scene and we got back to it, and she was fulfilling her duties with Saike. I was like, she has a plan. She's always had a plan. I just didn't think this is what's really scary. We're not gonna make no predictions about next episode because the next episode review will be available for you all right now as soon as you watch this one. But I wonder if she will be at some point punished for being cooperating with Nagakoto in whatever was this assassination attempt with the brother, because she had to be a part of it. She says, you want to take this pleasure to the next level? Well, let me take you somewhere. And that definitely sounds like they had a plan together, but that ultimately means that she went behind Toranaga's back, which resulted in his son dying. I don't know how it's gonna go, but nonetheless, let's go back to your initial point. That meeting and then her trying to create a legacy. How did that make you feel about her as a person that, for lack of better words, has only just really been viewed as meat, but has always spoke about being more. And now we see her really lay down her plan for the future. She's somebody, obviously, yes, most lucrative of that business, but she is somebody who, let's just say, a sex worker who creates that fantasy. But as a woman, especially in that time, and especially of that profession, she isn't value, but she goes to the top to make a pitch about what they can do. What did you ultimately think about her, and did that make you gain more respect for her?
Yeah, I feel like I was kind of looking at it as she also kind of described like how both of them came from like nothing and made something. Like she was kind of getting into that whole thing, but putting it in a way that wasn't like, I guess, like derogatory. I don't know how to explain it, but in a way that kind of like progressed her life, where she made, like you said, like a lucrative business. And he mentioned that like, oh, like this is a distraction, the future's too short, but she's really trying to look, like ahead, not just for herself, but like a game plan. And I think she was like kind of hinting, like I kind of foresaw that something would happen later with her, because I guess to mention like other media, a brothel is typically a place where most information gets passed, especially like in Warrior, one of my other favorite series. The brothel, they were actually like female badass warriors, but like that's where most information gets passed, like secretive, So I was like, I kind of could foresee that like she's going to be more valuable because she obviously has the most time with these people, and can hear like, she even like inferred like the Anjin was looking at I just blanked out on her name, but that the Anjin had eyes on another woman. So it's kind of like she, without saying things, Lady Mariko, it's like she's kind of can infer things without saying things. She can say things, like, if that makes sense. So I kind of feel like in her position of power, she has a lot more power than she gets credited for.
She has a lot of influence, and we're seeing that influence evolve into power, if you ask me, my perspective about it. And I she's another character now I'm just overly more interested in. I don't know what's going to happen toward the next episode, but like I am liking somebody that is really out there, that's keeping Toranaga lifted, but also campaigning for herself. She's lifting herself, and I think that's a very interesting thing in this climax of everything that's happening there. One mistake I made earlier too is that Nagakoto is to be ordered to go back to Osaka because of Jozen's death. I think I was saying something.
Yeah, you said Izu.
Yeah, Izu. Thank you.
Jozen.
Yeah, Jozen. Izu is where he wanted to be the lord of the place. But beyond that too, we got to talk about really quickly, and then you can tell me if there's anything else. I thought it was interesting that Kiku and Sake having their moment, and he is promising her everything. He's talking about the 7 consort. They talking about how they're gonna be able to rule or something together. I mean, my man is just laying it out here. It only tells me that this is a brother, as he mentioned. He didn't have much purpose but protecting this body of water. So now that he realizes that he's being given the opportunity of power in that position, this is going right to his head now. I think he's going to be problematic, and I think he's going to regret the decision that he's made, because while he thinks he's getting a seat at the table for Ishido, we all know that Ishido is only the puppet master to Lady Achiba, and this is just to get the vote done. But he really, really, really doesn't have a seat there at all. In fact, he will just be a puppet, and he will be exposed, and he will be feeling much more inferior than he's ever felt. So I really am excited for the next episode. Is there anything else in this episode, other bit points you that we didn't cover that we need to discuss?
I think a huge thing for me was Lady Mariko, like her anguish, like it got really freaking dark. Like basically after the whole interaction with her husband confronting the situation and like being like, well, no, like not her. She's kind of at the point, she literally told Toranaga to kill her. She was like, she gave up. And I'm like, God damn, like it got really, really dark. I'm kind of wondering if it's not anything to do with John, but in a sense, maybe it does. Like she kind of feels like where he's questioning her ability to do her job, even though she's solely done her job. Like she has always been like loyal to Toranaga, and him questioning her, I kind of think she feels like, I don't know, hopeless in a sense. Like not only is like her husband like coming after her, but she probably really does have feelings for John, and that can never happen. And then Toranaga like questioning her responsibilities. I guess just everything she's been through, she's just kind of like an endpoint where like, what else can she do?
Yeah, I think she's never valued life. She spoke so adamantly about how her life isn't of hers. And that time where she felt a little encouraged or maybe feeling meaningful in terms of her duties, it was quickly kind of the rug was brought from underneath her. And the moment she falls for somebody, she sees it's problematic, and she realizes that like her sole duty now is just to serve Toranaga, and that's it. And I think she's just kind of at a point of saying like, hell, it is what it is. And it's a very interesting dynamic for her going forward. But with Bontoro being on to her, Toranaga being fed up and questioning her loyalty, and even Blackthorn and her not being able to have that connection, what do she have at this point? That is, it's a sad thing to see somebody who was filled with so much energy, so much purpose, to now kind of just existing. So we'll see. Anywho, is there anything else? I was looking over my notes. I think I'm pretty good. We didn't mention too much about Blackthorn. I mean, Blackthorn did call everybody out at the end where everybody was looking kind of hopeless when it came down to
like, you're all dead.
To Toranaga basically saying like, all right, I'm gonna surrender myself. He's like, really, what? All right, well, Crimson Sky, Crimson shit, whatever, and just leaves off. Which I was thought like, wait, can he do that? That feels a little disrespectful for him to just step off like that. But at the same time too, he was very ambitious and saying, I'm going to come up with a plan. We're just not going to sit here. And even to a point, he tried to run a plan by Fuji and Lady Mariko. They was just like, what are we going to do? So he still is very ambitious and still wants to continue his loyalty to Toranaga, as he said earlier in layman's terms. He said, I'm riding with you regardless if I figure out my purpose or not, or whether you know what you want to do with me. I'm riding with you. And we're gonna see if he really does live up to that. Cause man, do they have an uphill battle beyond this. With that being said, I don't think we should wait any longer. We should wrap here. This is episode 7. Episode 8 recap review is available for you right now. So check that out. Episode 9 is available for you right now as we play catch up. And we'll be back for our finale recap for episode 10. You see that immediately after that episode drop very soon. Thank you for watching this one. See y'all on the other side.